Good morning. It is a cold and crisp morning here in North Carolina. And today we're going to talk about how to get razor sharp focusing of your wildlife images. So come along and enjoy this adventure. So when I'm talking to students about photography, or when I'm working with people that are having problems with photography, one of the biggest frustrations I hear people say is, how come my image aren't really sharp focused? They all look a little soft, or I can't get really sharp images of these things. So I'm going to show you a few tips today that are going to help you take much sharper images. But the first thing that you need to do is determine that your equipment is working correctly. So what I want you to do is to set up your camera on a tripod with the equipment you're going to use. If you're using a zoom lens like this, you want to be about 20-25 feet away from a tree or something with a lot of texture in it. And what you simply do is you set up the camera to take the images, set a timer here, and then you hit the shutter release, and then don't touch the camera when it's taking the picture. If those images are in focus, then the rest of it you just move forward. If it's not in focus, what I would do is try to take a few pictures at different distances, at different focal lengths, and see if there's a problem with the lens, the camera. You're probably going to have to talk to somebody about what is not working correctly on your camera. Well, if you like this content, please subscribe to this channel. Please leave this video a thumbs up. Leave a comment below. I respond to every one of them. The number one reason that I think most people are not getting those crisp, sharp images is a phenomenon called camera movement. And there's quite a few things that can do that. If you're holding your camera and you're just moving a little bit, that can cause a distortion in the image. If the subject moves, that can cause a distortion in the image. That's technically not the camera movement, but that's your subject movement. But even things like if you're in a car and the car is running, and that little bit of vibration from the car can be transferred to the lens, and that will cause enough distortion to be seen in the image. Now this seems, how do we fix this? How do we do this? And the way we fix this issue is we shoot with a faster shutter speed. As a general rule of hand, the minimum shutter speed should be twice your focal length. This is a 600mm lens. I need to shoot at 1/1200. That's the minimum shutter speed I should shoot at. If I have 400mm lens, I shoot at 1/800th of a second. The way I achieve this is that I shoot in aperture priority. So I shoot in aperture priority. In most cases, I'll have the aperture open all the way. I will take a reading when I go out in the woods and I look at my shutter speed. And if my shutter speed is, I try to shoot around 1/2000th of a second in most situations, but like if I'm on a pleasure trip, I'm out in the middle of the ocean in a boat and I'm taking pictures of birds moving, so the boat's moving, I'm moving, the birds are moving, I try to shoot at 1/4000th of a second, 1/5000th of a second. If I'm out in a forested situation like this, I try to shoot around 1/2000th of a second. But what I'll do is I'll adjust I have a knob here on the top, and what I do is I look through my viewfinder and see what my shutter speed is. And if my shutter speed is not fast enough, I will increase my ISO. Now, increasing your ISO does add grain to your image, but if you're not getting the sharp focusing, the grain doesn't make any difference at all. The other thing that you can do too is that if you have a shutter speed that's, let's say, 1/6000th of a second, 1/8000th of a second, you can start lowering your shutter speed or lowering your ISO to get a lower shutter speed. But you have to remember that you will have to have a minimum of twice your focal length. And this is the number one reason I think that most people, images are not in focus. Now that we have our shutter speed that we need and our camera is working correctly, the next thing that we have to do is, how do we support our camera? Now, most people will have their camera with the strap around their shoulders. They have their camera, their arms tucked in tight, the camera up like this here, and this is the best way to handhold your camera when you're taking pictures. Just having, and if you don't use the foot, which I encourage you to do, take the foot off because it's just extra weight you have. But I can focus on a subject like this for about 25-30 seconds. And you need to have that time because you're waiting for a deer to turn their head the right way. You're waiting for a bird to move into the correct light. You're waiting for your subject to do something. Another thing that you can do, and another thing that I'm a huge fan of, is using a tripod. Tripod, beanbag, monopod will help you hold the camera in perfect position. So if you're in a situation where you are waiting for an animal to move into position, having the camera up on a tripod here means that the tripod supporting the camera, and you just have to wait for the subject to move into position. I've also used trees and the edges of blinds to support my camera. Whatever I can do to support my camera will help me take much better and sharper focused images. So if you got anything out of this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to this channel because that really helps us in the YouTube world. Become a Patreon supporter. Your support allows us to keep doing this. My name is Leahy. I want to thank you for watching.